All right, let's get right into it. We're heading to a place called the Barind Tract in northwest Bangladesh. For the longest time, its entire story was defined by one thing: a desperate thirst for water. But, this isn't a story about scarcity. Not really. It's a story of transformation, about how a massive, decades-long project completely rewrote the future for a land and its people. There's this local saying that just captures it all perfectly. For generations, this was the harsh reality. Everything from farming to your health to just plain survival was dictated by the totally unpredictable whims of the rain. It was a story of just being completely dependent and, well, a lot of hardship.
But what if you could just grab the pen and change that story? What if you could take control of that whole narrative? That's really the question at the heart of what happened here. This incredibly ambitious idea that human ingenuity could fundamentally change a region's entire destiny.
Okay, so first, let's really wrap our heads around the scale of the problem. Before 1986, the Barind Tract wasn't just a little dry. It was a place completely locked in this vicious cycle of poverty, and it was all driven by a severe water crisis.
Just look at these numbers. They really paint a stark picture, don't they? The Barind region gets, on average, only half the rainfall of the rest of Bangladesh. And to make things even worse, the soil there is this hard, clay-like stuff. So what little rain did fall would just run right off instead of soaking into the ground. It was just perpetually water-stressed.
And this, of course, had these devastating knock-on effects. Farming was a total gamble on a single rain-fed crop. If the rains failed, which they often did, the crops failed. Simple as that. This led to just extreme poverty, forcing people to leave their homes to find work. And for those who stayed, even getting a drink of water was a hazard. It often came from stagnant ponds, which led to rampant, awful waterborne diseases. Life was incredibly tough.
But then, things started to change. A new organization came into the picture, and they had a radical new philosophy for how to tackle this really deep-rooted problem.
So the big turning point was the creation of the Barind Multi-Purpose Development Authority, or BMDA for short. Now, their mission wasn't just to, drill a few wells here and there. No, it was to completely overhaul the region's entire relationship with water. And they were guided by this really powerful new principle.
And that principle was something called Integrated Water Resources Management. Now, that sounds a bit academic, but put simply, it just means you don't solve one problem at a time. You look at everything: the groundwater, the surface water, the rainwater, how the land is used, what people actually need, and you manage it all as one big interconnected system.
So, great theory, right? But how did the BMDA actually put this integrated idea into practice? Well, this is where it gets really cool. They developed this brilliant toolkit of smart, super practical solutions.
One of the first and, honestly, biggest game changers was replacing these old, leaky, inefficient earthen irrigation ditches with buried pipelines. The impact was just immediate. Water loss plummeted from over 40% down to around just 5%. And this perfectly shows that integrated approach, because not only did it save a ton of water, but by burying the pipes, it also freed up over 1,900 hectares of precious farmland.
They also got incredibly creative with surface water. They figured out how to essentially move rivers inland. It's fantastic. Using these big pumps on floating pontoons, they could pull water from major rivers all year round and then pipe it for miles to feed these newly redug canals way out in the driest areas. Just a brilliant piece of engineering.
But maybe the most revolutionary tool of all wasn't a giant pump or a canal. It was this, a simple prepaid card. This little piece of tech fundamentally changed the economics and, honestly, the whole psychology of water use for farmers.
So how'd it work? Well, farmers would charge their cards with money, and then they just stick it into a meter at the water pump. They only paid for exactly what they used. And the result? A stunning 39% reduction in water use. But get this, because they conserved so much water, the total irrigated area actually grew by 22%. It was a win for conservation, a win for the farmer's wallet, and it totally eliminated all those arguments over payments.
So, after decades of this integrated approach, what was the result? What was the final score? Well, the impact has been nothing short of staggering.
Through a network of over 15,000 deep tube wells, all connected by those super efficient buried pipelines, the BMDA brought over 500,000 hectares of land under controlled irrigation. That's just a massive area. And on top of that, all their work re-excavating thousands of ponds and canals and pumping in that river water, that provided extra irrigation for another 97,000 hectares.
And this is just so crucial. This was never just about agriculture. By tapping into all this new water infrastructure, the project gave safe, clean drinking water to nearly 1 million villagers. Think about that. It drastically improved public health and freed them from that constant threat of waterborne diseases.
So the transformation it's complete. A region that people once literally described as desert-like, a place known for poverty and people having to leave, has become a breadbasket, or I guess a rice basket, for the entire nation. A true granary.
The success is just undeniable, but the work isn't over. The challenge now is to sustain this incredible progress, especially when you've got things like climate change looming on the horizon.
So the path forward really involves doubling down on what already works, conserving even more surface water, getting smarter about capturing rainwater to recharge those underground aquifers, and, this is a big one, critically maintaining the vast network of pumps and pipes that makes this whole thing possible.
And this really leaves us with a final vital question. The story of the Barren Tract is an incredible local success story, but as countless regions all around the globe face their own growing water crises, you just have to wonder, right? Could this combination of integrated planning, smart technology, and solutions focused on the community, could this be the blueprint they've all been searching for?